All right, we're now live on YouTube. Cable, are you ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Okay. Council member, you may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert White, council member at large and chair of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities. Today is Monday, March 21st, 2022. The time is now 12:05 p.m. I'm calling to order this first budget oversight hearing of the committee on the fiscal year 2023 budget for the Office of Religious Affairs, the Office of Women's Policy and Initiatives, the Office of Community Affairs, and the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions. Our first agency today is the Office of Religious Affairs, or ORA. ORA coordinates between DC government agencies and the faith community to address citywide issues. ORA's mission is to cultivate policies that engage community and faith-based organizations in the creation of citywide programs and initiatives across multiple disciplines. During the pandemic, ORA has helped get many residents vaccinated and has held special grief services for those who have lost loved ones during the pandemic. Considering the affordable housing crisis in the city, ORA has made it one of its priorities to recruit places of worship to use excess land for affordable housing through HPTF funding. ORA falls within the Executive Office of the Mayor's budget. The Office of Religion Affairs' fiscal year 2023 budget proposes an increase of $6,000, bringing its total budget to $158,000. This reflects an approximately $8,000 increase in salary and a $2,000 increase in fringe benefits, offset by a $4,000 reduction in the supplies budget for the office. There was no proposed increase to FTEs, as the administration has indicated it does not intend to expand the office beyond Director Bowen, who currently manages the office in addition to other duties. Our second agency will be the Office of Women's Policy and Initiatives. The Commission for Women was established in 1978 through the District of Columbia Commission for Women Act of 1978. Today, the Office of Women's Policy and Initiatives serves alongside the Commission for Women. The office is currently staffed by 3 dedicated staff members. Relative to its size, however, the office has a substantial authority, being tasked with conducting studies, reviewing progress, developing and conducting programs in areas like sex discrimination, employment practices, education, and childcare. The office's mission is to enhance the health and quality of life for all women and their families within the District of Columbia, foster economic opportunities for women by establishing public and private partnerships, engage women and girls in civic life by sharing service opportunities, and empower communities and organizations to advocate for policy and systemic change that will help women thrive. The proposed budget for the Office of Women's Policy and Initiatives is for fiscal year 2023 is $493,000, an increase of $180,000 from last year's total approved budget of $313,000. The Office of Women's Policy and Initiatives, like ORA, falls within the budget of the Executive Office of the Mayor. This proposed budget would increase the staff up to 4 by adding 1 full-time employee with $187,000 in recurring dollars, offset by a $7,000 cut in the office's supplies budget. This FTE is being transferred from the Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services. I'm interested in digging into the need and plans for this additional staff person and learning more about the upcoming goals of the office. Our third agency today is the Office of Community Affairs. The Office of Community Affairs is a central office within the Executive Office of the Mayor that provides leadership, coordination, and central support for 14 separate constituent services offices within a central staff of 6 funded full-time employees. Some of those offices, like the Office of Religious Affairs and the Office of Women's Policy and Initiatives, are within the jurisdiction of this committee and have separate hearings. Others will have hearings before other committees. To complicate things a bit further, the budget structure for the Office of Community Affairs doesn't match the way it's organized in practice. While at this hearing, we will focus largely on the central staff of the Office of Community Affairs, I want to note that this committee has budget oversight over the Office of Community Relations and Services and the budget associated with the now defunct Office of Partnership and Grant Services. We'd be happy to receive testimony on these budgets today or as part of the record for this hearing. The budget for the Office of Community Affairs Central Staff is proposed to be $838,000, a $40,000 increase over the approved budget for last year. That reflects a $100,000 increase in subsidies and transfers offset by cuts in other categories. Our final agency today is the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions. The Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions is responsible for supporting and providing technical, administrative, and financial reporting assistance to the city's 40 advisory neighborhood commissions. The Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions is currently in the middle of a major shift. Over the last several years, the council has nearly doubled the funding available for ANCs and added 2 new employees to the Office of ANCs. That funding includes substantial increases in financial support for technical support and assistance and expert assistance for ANCs. Rules for the use of that funding have been established, and I look forward to getting an update on the progress of those resources going out the door. At the same time, the office is going through a transition in leadership, and Shanette Grant has been an incredible interim director for the office as we search for a new permanent director. We have also funded a strategic plan for the office so that it can be prepared to meet the modern needs of our ANCs. We had a roundtable on that planning process and expect it to proceed once a new permanent director for the office is identified. Finally, redistricting is likely to add a number of new ANCs to our city, which may require more resources as well. I know many ANCs are hopeful that this budget cycle will result in new resources for commissioners, and I look forward to continuing to hear testimony on how we should prioritize among those needs. Before we turn to our panel of public witnesses, everyone should have received a copy of the witness list yesterday. I'm going to call the witnesses in the order that they appear on the list. When I call you, the staff will promote you to a panelist so that you can testify. When you are promoted, you will drop out of the hearing momentarily, but you will come back in as a panelist, and at that time, you will be able to unmute yourself. Public witnesses will have 4 minutes to testify, and advisory neighborhood commissioners will have 5 minutes to testify. So with that, let us turn to our panel of public witnesses: Sharice Crawford, Fritz Mulhauser, Commissioner Ann Mladendorf, Commissioner Chuck Elkins, and Commissioner Trupti Patel. I'm not seeing anyone. I'm not sure if my staff is seeing anyone on. Okay. Fritz Mulhauser, you can begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you and staff and colleagues. I'm Fritz Mulhauser. I'm the co-chair of the legal committee of the DC Open Government Coalition. We're a community group devoted to the successful access to government records, government meetings, government data, which gives citizens the tools to take part in our wonderful DC government. We're here because, as we testified in the earlier hearings on the ANCs this year, in our particular view, the ANCs are not able to comply with the law in several important ways. First, with regard to their records, keeping them in good shape, providing them when requested under FOIA, and also accessibility of the public to their meetings. They have a unique statute which is not as comprehensive as the Open Meetings Act, and we hope one day that they will be required to follow that statute, but they appear incapable of complying even with their own unique open meeting statute. The commissioners themselves have told you that they are simply dissatisfied with the extent of help they get from the central office of ANCs, and that's with regard to doing their work. And the shortcomings have simply hindered their ability to do their function of reviewing actions of legislative and executive branches that affect neighborhoods. This is a risk as well. Police aren't the only people whose mistakes cost DC money. The Attorney General recently announced that they settled or concluded a suit last year after 8 years of trying to defend an ANC's failure to disclose emails. And it took 8 years of litigation, not a good use of anybody's time since the records had to be provided. And the district paid $140,000 in legal fees for that 8-year battle. This is simply too much exposure to stand. And so the rest of our testimony is really sort of, what are we going to do about this? The staff may think that it's not their job to provide the kinds of help that are needed by commissions, but look, we're not where we need to be. The ANC budget before you provides no funds to implement improved information management, provides no additional staff to implement those systems or the other new ones that you heard about at a recent hearing, technical systems to communicate with the public, no funds for augmenting websites. There are none in one whole ward, and they're not enough. Not all are covered in another ward. And there are no funds for whatever Octo help is going to be needed for the burgeoning electronic meetings technology. In fact, the proposed budget cuts the office. It takes away $160,000, saying, oh, those were one-time funds last year. You mentioned the augmented support. That's wonderful, but the need continues. The planning and technical support needed for 40 small legislatures to do their job, those needs haven't gone away. How can 40 small legislatures and a staff of 5 people do more with less in the coming year? It's not sensible. I talked to my own ANC commissioner under a lovely spring tree on our block last week, and he said, look, we've got some building permits and license permits that are very complicated, and we can't even find out what our brothers and sisters in other ANCs have done with the executive and these complex topics. That's crazy. So you'll hear from the credible voices, the experts from the commissioners who have surveyed their needs, they've analyzed them, and they say a couple more staff and a few $100,000 would be a huge step in the right direction. You've got a new director coming in. That's a wonderful step. Let's welcome that person with adequate resources and a sense that the council understands the importance of this chunk of the legislative branch. This is not the budget sent by the mayor. This is your budget. This is a budget that came up from staff and the council. And I don't think the mayor has much to do with it. The mayor's got a lot.
Mr. Mulhauser, we're about a minute over
Okay,
time.
I'm finishing up.
I appreciate it.
The budget request is not adequate, and you need to look closely at the thoughtful views of the colleagues as to what extra they need, because they're not able to obey the law now. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Mladenoff, welcome.
Thank you so much, Chairman White and the committee, for holding this hearing and providing us an opportunity to testify on the budget on this beautiful day. And thank you, Fritz, for your opening. I know that Chuck Elkins has testimony, which he has submitted in writing, with the request that Mr. Mulhauser just mentioned for 2 additional staff at OANC and 100,000 or so more for special contract funding. And Chuck's testimony goes through that with admirable backup. And I was going to support him with additional information about what the commissioners have been doing to look at their needs. I'm a commissioner in ANC 3B, Clover Park Cathedral Heights, but I've been working for the last 2 years with the district-wide commissioner Monday night discussions that Chandra Jayaraman got going exactly 2 years ago this coming week. And since last summer, we've been working as an ad hoc advisory group with 2 commissioners from each ward, getting together to talk about OANC services and how they could be strengthened to support the operation of ANCs and the commissioners, which is really important to all of us. And I'm trying to stand in for all of the members. We can't get 296 or so people to come testify, but we did do a survey, as Mr. Mulhauser mentioned, over the fall, and we got 115 responses, which is close to 40% of the sitting commissioners, looking at the areas where they would like more support. And I know we shared that in the hearing about the strategic plan, and I don't need to go over that, but we did highlight the need for increased training, particularly in specific areas that commissioners need to deal with, including policy and programs, as well as administrative tasks, more effective links and interactions with district agencies, better tools and technology for reaching residents and businesses in the community through improved communication, and also hybrid, meaning combined virtual and in-person meetings, which is going to be really important in the coming year, greater sharing of information and work products among ANCs, and expanded opportunities for collaboration across commissions and among commissioners who are working with similar challenges. Those are really key. Chuck Elkins has just started a small pilot in his ANC, which he's hoping to get more support for a digest of the actions that ANCs are taking across the city that can be easily accessed. The mayor's office has tried to get a portal going on that, but it hasn't been totally effective. So we would love support to get that going in a broader way with more participation and easier access. Interim Director Shanette Grant, as mentioned, and the OANC staff have been working diligently to carry out the responsibilities of the office and also respond to a lot of the requests from the commissioner survey and from the Actos members and others to build the additional services that commissioners and the council have requested. And I've been very encouraged and impressed by their work and their commitment and the progress they're making. We're really looking forward to that continuing in the next fiscal year. As you know, and as we've said, OANC has had a very small staff and budget, and it would be difficult for any group of 3 to 5 people to do everything that's asked of that office. I'm sure the commissioners across the district will be happy to see the committee is working on adding to the number of staff members, and we hope that can be boosted by at least a couple, because we have so many needs coming. As you mentioned, Chairman White, redistricting is going to lead to the creation of more SMDs, probably about 50, and more ANCs that will have to be launched from the ground up. And that's going to be starting after the next election. There has to be training virtually immediately to get people ready to go for the swearing in on the 2nd of January next year. And that's really important need. The job just keeps getting more complicated. There are more issues that commissions need to take up that are critical to the city, whether it's social services, affordable housing, public safety, health and nutrition, all types of services that ANCs need to weigh in on for the good of their community and the district as a whole. So it's so important to have a support office, centralized support office at OANC that can administratively, financially, technically support and give a foundation for the ANC work. So for all those reasons, I strongly support the recommendations that are in Commissioner Elkins' written testimony, where he goes item by item, and hope that you can see a way to fund the additional staff members and a modest increase in contract funding to pay for specialized outside expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Elkins, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am testifying today on behalf of the Advisory Committee to OANC for Services, which we call ACTOS, of which I'm the chair. This ad hoc committee, composed of two ANC commissioners from each ward and an at-large member, has been meeting monthly since last June. And Mr. Chairman, your committee has been responsive to the pleas of various ANC commissioners during the last few years about need for additional services, and you have added additional resources, and we thank you for that. I think this demonstrates that you recognize that the need to support commissioners so that they can do their best is the primary reason we have OANC, and that was created in the first place. And if not the primary reason why it exists. And so the question is, what kind of support do commissioners need? I can't say that I represent the views of all 296 commissioners. And the reason, among others, is that would be impossible. As you know, we have no communication way besides email to communicate among commissioners. So email is a horrible tool for trying to reach consensus on anything. So as a result, we commissioners all live in our individual silos. But ACTOS sought a second best way to try to determine what the services are that commissioners need. And we use surveys, as Ann mentioned, of our fellow commissioners. And in the last survey, 115 ANC commissioners did respond. That's the most commissioners I've ever seen do anything together. So I think we should be proud of that. It's 40%. And the results were phenomenal. The lowest number of yeses on any question, we asked 28 questions, was 68%. That is 2/3 of the commissioners responding agreed that that was a service that they'd like to have. And the highest was 99%. And the average of the yeses was around 81%. So I do believe ACTOS can speak with some authority about what commissioners believe they need in the way of support from OANC. So the budget recommendations that we're presenting today are designed as a start on what we hope will be budget increases over the next 2 years to implement the findings of that survey and the discussion you heard at the roundtable. We're recommending that 2 positions plus $275,000 in non-personnel funds be added to the OANC budget. These increases are in addition to the OANC request to continue the current but vacant technical assistance FTE, plus a new FTE to handle administrative functions. And we support those. When we started planning this budget, we actually were ready to propose an increase of 5 FTE because we thought that was justified by what we'd heard from our fellow commissioners. But we decided that this number might be higher than the committee could find this year. And so we decided to spread our request out over this year and next fiscal year. And I would just ask that since we cut our budget request in half, I hope that the committee doesn't cut our request in half, but takes it as an honest attempt to get started on the recommendations from our fellow commissioners. Now, as this committee knows, the small OANC office has only 5.5 FTE and is struggling to actually meet the needs of commissioners now. And even without the addition of 40 or so new commissioners and some new commissions themselves resulting from redistricting, this office is going to have a hard time keeping up. Our ACTOS survey revealed a very strong demand from commissioners for improving the existing services as well as increasing those services. So just to put this staff in perspective, it's approximately the same size as the staffs available to each council member. So with your permission, I want to share my screen and show the budget proposal that you see in my written testimony. And I'll just run through these quickly. First of all, we're recommending that one of the new FTEs be to provide upgraded current services to the new cadre of approximately 340 commissioners. We see this as a one-time call of need, and then that person can move on to meeting some of the other needs in the next fiscal year. But limiting the services to only those currently delivered by OANC would be a big disappointment for all those commissioners who, in response to our survey, asked that OANC add new services. In particular, see if I can get the slide to move here. In particular, to provide greatly increased training in the programs and the policies of the key agencies that commissioners must deal with to carry out their jobs, and to seek out ways in which commissioners and these key agencies can interact more effectively in order to enhance the mission accomplishments of these agencies, and to enable ANC commissioners to be more effective in helping these agencies deliver their programs at the grassroots level. And in addition to that, we're suggesting that we add funds to provide financial and technical assistance to those ANCs that wish to conduct hybrid meetings, to compile and make accessible to all commissioners the multiple resolutions, settlement agreements, and commissioner testimony produced by all the ANCs, provide expert help to commissions on complex issues such as zoning, continue to expand the communications and engagement applications for all ANCs in fiscal year 2023. And finally, design a new website that could be comprehensive and can serve as a platform to service for all commissioners. I might add that this is something that Octo will not do for OANC. They're going to have to pay for that themselves. So we hope that the committee can find a way to provide these modest increases to OANC's budget for fiscal year 23, and then we'll plan to increase the OANC budget even more in fiscal year 2024. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about these proposals. I also have a current example that I could give during the question and answer session if we have time, that illustrates how some of these new services could in fact be helpful to commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Commissioner Patel.
Good morning, Councilmember White. Never fails. I'm always the last one on the panel every time.
I've noticed that too. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? I always like to think you're saving the best for last. No shade against any of my colleagues. We just have a really funny, hilarious relationship, me and the council member. So good morning, Chairman White. Thank you so much for having myself and the rest of my colleagues on here. I just submitted my testimony to you. It's going to echo a lot of the sentiments my colleague, Commissioner Elkins, has put to paper and already testified, so I'm not going to be repeating that. And I just really want to also echo and amplify my colleague, Attorney Mulhauser's recommendations. I think they're both very, very imperative. I want to kind of spend my time kind of sharing a little bit of the personal experiences through examples. So ANC2A, which I'm a part of, actually received a combined ABRA and sports combined liquor and sports wagering license, the first of its type in the city for a new establishment. There was no guidance, no help. I called ABRA, I called a lot of people. I had to rely on very thoughtful colleagues who I knew I could reach out to get help in making sure we created a phenomenal framework. And I'm sharing this example because I know there are going to be several ANC commissions that are going to be getting these kinds of licenses, and they're getting no type of guidance or information or help or assistance from even the agencies that manage this. So that's number one. Number two, when I testified before you in January, I had come forward about experiences I'd been having as a commissioner through bullying by ANC colleagues, members of the public. I've been working with your amazing staff and the amazing staff at OANC. They are taking this very seriously, so thank you for that, Chairman. But reason why I'm amplifying that, I think a lot of this hostility from ANC commissioners and members of the public is this sense of frustration of not feeling like, colleagues are doing their job properly. And, how can we get frustrated and angry at them when, no one is taking them in under their wings and giving them the proper training. Same thing with the members of the public. I think there is this sentiment, well, I don't see my commissioner or commission being effective. And, at the end of the day, we're your eyes and ears for the DC Council. If anything, COVID-19 proved how vital we were to making sure we kept members of the public safe. And, I not only agree with Commissioner Elkins' budget request, but I actually want a little bit more as far as staff. Like, I'm going to sit here and say I want 3 full-time employees. I mean, the ANCs are going to just continue to grow every 10 years. We're not going to shrink. And we need to now think of OANC as a forward-facing future growing entity. Because at the end of the day, we do not want it to go into further dysfunction. If the ANC is seen as a dysfunctional arm of government, you're not going to have people that will run for this position. Once again, we are volunteers. We are not paid for this work. A lot of this is a labor of love. I mean, Commissioner Moldenov and Commissioner Elkins and we're giving up more of our free time to do this. This is a labor of love for us. A lot of us don't want to see attrition happening on the ANC through OANC. We don't want to see commissioners leave. If anything, we're trying to keep this vital institution alive. And so I welcome any of your questions and answers, any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. So thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you to this entire panel. I want to start by saying that, I try to put myself in the shoes of commissioners as I think through these things. And, I think about sort of how frustrated I would be as a commissioner without the support that I need to do the things that are demanded. And I've tried to take the recommendations that we hear in our hearings and our community meetings and turn them into resources. I will admit that I'm a bit more than a bit disappointed that we haven't been able to move more quickly on the new executive director, because we need that permanent leadership. Our interim director, Shanette Brand, has done a superb job, but we do need that permanent leadership in place as we are at a pivotal point sort of in the evolution of the office of ANC. And I do think the office needs to grow and continue growing. So let me ask a couple questions about these recommendations. And Commissioner Elkins, the FTE that you are, and several of you are requesting to handle administrative functions. What type of administrative functions are you thinking?
But this is the recommended position from the OANC staff themselves, which we are endorsing. They have informed us that there is no one in their office to answer the phones. They get 40 or 50 calls a day, sometimes more than that. They're trying to help commissioners deal with issues and citizens connect with their ANCs. And so they're asking for someone to be able to answer the phone, redirect, direct and give answers to people who are calling, and also help Ms. Dickerson handle the financial overload that she has in reviewing all these financial records that come in from the commission. So I take their word for it, since they watch what really happens in the office every day and how difficult it is to operate. And so we did endorse that. That is not one of the, I want to make clear, that is not one of the 2 positions that is in our
recommendation. Okay, that helps untangle a little bit of confusion I had. I missed that. Okay, I'm with you. And I remember their testimony on this point, the administrative position from the budget, from the performance oversight hearing, and I have some questions for them on. Okay. The FTE that would assist new commissioners. I could use some clarification on this, because I imagine that assistance for new commissioners will be a bit diverse. It will be training, it will be sort of answering basic questions, it will be an overlap of what staff there already do. So how does a new FTE help with new commissioners when it seems like the things new commissioners will need will be spread across many people in that office?
Well, in fact, I think this year is going to be particularly difficult. We are going to have 40, something like 40 more. Secondly, we're going to, most of the ANCs will change in the number of people that they have, and they're going to have organizational issues. So this year, I think, poses some very special problems. And that's why we're suggesting that for this year, that we have additional help. At the beginning of any 2-year period for commissions, there's a lot of training that has to go on. And we're recommending based on the recommendations of our fellow commissioners, that they need to go way beyond just the Robert's Rules of Orders and order and that kind of stuff, but additional training. The old director of OANC, Mr. Gottlieb, used to remark that it takes a commissioner about 2 years to get up to speed, and that's just not really acceptable. And so we need to have a lot more training, not just in how to run a commission, which is important, but also how to deal with the agencies that we deal with every day. And that just has not existed at all. So I think a number of these commissions, as was mentioned earlier, will start off with no budget, no bylaws, no officers, because they're brand new ANCs. They're going to need a lot of help to get organized. And so that's what this position in particular for this 1 year is necessary. We would then see this position transitioning into meeting some of the other needs that we're not financing this year out of the needs from that were identified in our survey.
So on the other needs, and let me ask the other commissioners and Mr. Malhauser on this. There was some requests for increased financial, increased technical assistance for a contractor to track and distribute commission resolutions, contractor to assist with zoning, contractor to help design a new website. These are a lot of contractors for a small office. Would it not require an additional FTE just to, or more, to manage this number of complex contractors? Or do you see the office as being able to manage sort of all these contract positions with just the 2 or 3 additional FTEs? Commissioner Ladinoff?
Well, thank you for that question. Contract management is always a challenge, and my understanding is that OANC has not done a great deal of that. And that could be something that would be highlighted in the position description and the advertisement. The positions will require a lot of coordination because OANC doesn't do all of the training that is offered to OANC. So they'd have to coordinate with agencies. Coordinating with the contractors would also be useful. But I think the needs that we highlighted, such as the website to compile documents, resolutions, et cetera, would be a very well-defined area of work, quite specific. So I don't think it would be a complex contract management job, but maybe Troop T or Chuck have another perspective.
Well, let's just look at some of these. One is to handle the hybrid meetings. The staff is doing the work now. The staff work was then, so this is money to actually pay for some of the equipment. So it's really not so much contract money in that sense. With regard to the gathering of documents, ANC 3D is experimenting with on a pilot basis between now and June to see how much this costs. We're using a contract out of ANC 3D to essentially do a proof of concept. I think we'll find that this is we'll be able to write pretty simple rules for how to do this, and therefore the contract management for that would not be great. I think we're doing a lot of that advanced work now with ANC 3D money. Help the experts. This is a matter of going out and finding these experts. I don't think the experts themselves need to be supervised about how they give the advice. They will give the advice they're competent to give, but there's a matter of finding those contractors and getting them enrolled as contractors. That is a one-time effort, but I don't think it's going to be as much of a continuing effort as one might expect. And then we are asking for money to continue the communications and engagement applications. This is something the office is doing now. It's a matter of expanding those resources to other ANCs. That's not without work, but by that time, by the end of this fiscal year, we would expect OANC to know how to handle those contractors. They're going to be supervising them hopefully for half a year here. And so I take your point that it does mean some contract management, but I don't think these particular contracts are as complex as perhaps some of the ones you may be thinking of. These are going to be fairly set forward and narrow about what has to be done.
So let's take the zoning assistance as an example. So would we have sort of one person or business entity that assists all commissions with zoning, or how might that work?
Well, I think that might be difficult. In that case, I believe maybe we need more than one person, because, for instance, in zoning issues, you often have transportation specific things, and you need a transportation specialist. You do need, of course, someone who knows zoning laws. I'm happy to say that right now, the Office of Attorney General has recently taken on this task. And so the very difficult stuff about zoning commission and BZA is something that they can provide. They are providing ANC commissioners with. I met this morning with them to get some help on a BZA issue that I'm dealing with, and they were very helpful. So, but I think that there are other aspects of PUDs, et cetera, where we might need another professional expert.
So here, I guess, so that we're kind of honing in on my concern that I want to unravel, not dispute. We've already put $150,000 into the budget that's in the budget now for technical assistance that can be used for this. But none of that money has gone out the door. And so I guess what I'm suggesting is, we can't just put money in the budget. We have to be thinking about what else we need to get this money out the door, because I'm seeing so many backlogs of places where we put money into the budget for technical assistance, for IT stuff, and the money isn't getting out the door. And so it's going to require something additional inside of OANC to help manage these funds. So that's
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take on that issue. I think OANC staff who are going to testify soon can tell you how they're spending the $150,000. I think you're going to hear that money is going out the door. Most of it's going to as I understand it, to engagement and communication contracts, which this committee has been in favor of. So I don't, ask them exactly how much of that money is left over when they finish that. But I think that you will find finally, and I understand your frustration about this, I think you'll find out that the money is finally flowing out, and that we will in fact need to replenish it next year for the purposes that we're talking about here, which include expanding those communication engagement activities, plus the additional things that technical assistance fund can handle.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. There's a technical assistance fund and an expert assistance fund. I have questions about both, but the expert assistance fund, I don't think any of that money's gone out. We'll get clarification.
You are correct about that, sir. You are correct.
Okay. Commissioner Patel, let me ask a question. I was again trying to put myself in your shoes as you were talking about getting, I think you said, the first sort of liquor and sports betting license and not having the information you need. How could this, I'm not sure that this is exactly a staff problem. This is, how do we make sure that you aren't in this position again and other commissioners aren't in this kind of position again? Is this, do you see this a particular type of FTE that could be in the office of ANC that could have helped here, or is this an issue with the agencies communicating with and working with commissioners?
Actually, I think it's a little bit of both. I think OANC could have pushed those agencies to kind of say, hey, this is coming up under your purview. And, for me, like, if I didn't have like ANC commissioners, like of a network of them to reach out to and say, hey, I'm in this situation and I'm politely persistent. I called Abra several times and, it was like every agency was putting me in touch with someone else, which is really frustrating. And I feel like OANC, which could have provided that assistance, not that they were required to, but it would have been a night, like I said, some of this would have been like nice to alleviate our stress, kind of like, let's facilitate making sure like Office of Lottery and Gaming is in touch with you about these particular things.
Yeah.
Let's make sure Abra reaches out to you, like just kind of helping speed up things versus me having to play catch up along with another colleague on the commission who I'm helping to co-lead. It's actually Commissioner McDonald's single member district. And, it was a little overwhelming and daunting for both of us because neither one of us wanted to make a mistake on this, especially because we were the first ANC commission actually putting together this kind of settlement agreement. So it would have been helpful to have like maybe an independent expert person, which should be housed within OANC to give ANC commissioners guidance. While it's great to have agency weigh in at the same time, we also want to make sure like the people we are getting assistance from are people who are community minded. And, I think for me, which in my testimony, I highlight, like the ANC commissioners should be treated like as we are a council member. I mean, there's like going to be nearly 400 of us, but at the end of the day, we're doing some of that important legwork for the DC Council. So it's kind of like we should kind of be seen as the unofficial 14th member of the council, if that makes any sense. And so it's kind of like how you have an amazing staff that advises you, does some of that legwork and research to make you look amazing when you sit on the dais. It's the same thing that we would like, the same kind of courtesy that we would like. And, and like I said, OANC has always been very helpful when I've reached out to them. But, at the same time, like to ask a staff of 3.5 people to service almost 300 people to now almost grow to 350, 375 next year is going to be very unfair to them. And it's going to cause burnout. Like the OANC staff is really great. I wouldn't want a staffer to leave because they didn't feel supported because they didn't have enough staff. So, I mean, I'm like in my testimony, I actually like asked for a little bit more aggressive. I said, can we have 3 additional full-time employees, so that way OANC is equivalent to like what a staff member has, which is anywhere from 5 to 7 full-time employees.
Okay. That makes sense. And, I really want to see, while we have the Office of ANC in our committee, I really want to see significant progress and making sure commissioners are fully sort of served. This is a significant sort of leveling up for commissioners. I mean, long overdue, but, technical assistance, expert assistance, just having enough staff at OANC to help with the basic functions, certainly as Mr. Mulhauser testified, making sure that, we're meeting the open meetings statutes and various, disclosure laws. We've got to make sure this is happening routinely. So I very much appreciate these testimonies. I'm optimistic about the progress that is in front of us, and we're going to push hard to make sure it's real and that it means something for commissioners. So again, thank you very much to this panel, and look forward to working with you all throughout this budget. We are now going to turn to our first government witness, which will be Thomas Bowen, Director of the Office of Religious Affairs. Director Bowen, welcome.
Thank you, council member.
As you know, it's the practice of our committee to put our government witnesses under oath. So I'm going to ask that you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to provide to the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Wonderful. Well, you can begin your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Councilmember White and members of the Committee on Government Operations. My name is Thomas Bowen, and I consider it both a privilege and an honor to serve in the executive office of Mayor Muriel Bowser as a Director of African American Strategic Engagement. In this role, I oversee 2 offices and 3 commissions: the Enhanced Mayor's Office on African American Affairs, the Mayor's Office of Religious Affairs, the Commission on Fallen Men and Boys, the Commission on African American Affairs, and the Mayor's Interfaith Council. Today, I'm here to discuss with you the budget for the Mayor's Office of Religious Affairs for fiscal year 2023. I would like to take the time to thank Mayor Bowser for her continued support of and belief in the faith community in the District of Columbia, a belief and faith that informs the expectations that she has of me and the faith community at large. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the many members of our community who have expressed similar sentiments, who know from personal experience the value of an involved and vibrant faith community in the District of Columbia. Last week, Mayor Bowser proposed the FY23 Fair Shot budget, which reflects what we are hearing from DC residents, their concerns about public safety and affordability, about how we can better ensure all residents have access to safe and dignified housing, about how we can make our roads safer and continue to rethink how we use public space and commercial corridors. It makes big investments in our young people through our schools and facilities, but also through significant investments in early learning and out-of-school time activities. The offices in the MOCA cluster serve as a direct link between the diversity of new Washingtonians and other special emphasis populations, including but not limited to LGBTQIA+ Washingtonians, the nightlife industry, the deaf, blind, and hard of hearing immigrants, and women. MOCA offices work directly engaging constituents and foster relationships means our MOCA offices are an entry point that allows us to become trusted messengers between government and community. With the proposed FY23 Fair Shot budget, Mayor Bowser is doubling down on her commitment to ensuring each and every Washingtonian has the opportunity to build back better and ensure our offices can provide them with equitable access to district services. Chief of Staff John Falchicchio will testify separately about the overall visions of the Executive Office of the Mayor, where MOCA resides, and several MOCA offices will have separate hearings. However, I want to highlight several programs that will continue or expand in FY23. As we continue the district's comeback and economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic, the mayor has tasked our offices with funding grants that allow community-based organizations to support our city's vibrant culture, support the implementation of expansion of streeteries as DC continues its stride as a district of comebacks, and informing residents of district programs to ensure access to their fair shot. Our offices will continue to partner with district government agencies to bolster outreach, provide feedback, and inform residents of key district-wide efforts to address our residents' most pressing concerns in public safety, healthy human services for the vulnerable, our children's educational aspirations, transportation, and environmental developments and housing affordability concerns. More specifically, we'll continue to work with the Department of Housing and Community Development on recruiting and assisting faith-based institutions that are trying to provide affordable housing to residents in our city. We've been able to identify and work with faith-based organizations that own property and encourage them to develop their existing resources into affordable housing. Now, with Mayor Bowser's unprecedented funding commitment of $100 million to the Housing Production Trust Fund each year, more funding is available to support affordable housing projects by faith-based institutions. Since 2015, Mayor Bowser has invested $1 billion into the fund, including $400 million this fiscal year. This is an answer to many prayers. We will continue to encourage faith-based organizations to engage in the development of properties for the purpose of creating additional affordable housing to ensure that the available resources, to ensure that the District of Columbia includes residents from all income levels, to provide information on available resources, and to explore ways to help them overcome obstacles to their development efforts. In closing, I'd like to thank you for your leadership and support. I appreciate the opportunity to share the accomplishments of the Mayor's Office of Legislative Affairs and our plans for continuous improvement, and look forward to working with you and the other members of the committee. This concludes my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you very much, Director. So given your newly expanded role as Director of the Office of African American Affairs and as the leader of the Commission on Father, Men, and Boys, are you finding you still have enough time and capacity to lead our engagement with the faith community?
Thank you, Council Member, and I'm glad you started with that question, because I heard in the opening testimony, you said that how I'm the lone person in this office, and that's been true for the almost 6 years prior. But I'm pleased to report that along with the enhancement of this office, which is an office that is focusing on African American strategic engagement while giving leadership to legislative affairs and African American affairs. And as a result of that, we will be bringing on an associate director for religious affairs, as I assume the overall title of African American strategic engagement. And so I think that this will help us in a great way. I remind folk all the time that having additional hands and additional feet does not decrease the amount of work that I have, but allows us to do even more work. So in this enhancement, I'm looking into extending our reach on behalf of the religious community in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Do you know where, I haven't seen that new position that you're pointing to in the budget. Do you know, is it in the mayor's budget proposal? If so, do you happen to know where it is?
I believe it should. I believe that what you spoke to in terms of legislative affairs it pertains to the associate director. I believe, but I'll get back to you that the African American strategic engagement would fall under the African American affairs budget. That's my understanding.
Okay. And despite your other roles, your compensation is paid entirely through the Office of Religions Affairs budget. Is that right?
I think that the budget reflects what we're bringing on in terms of associate director. There may have been a shift in terms of my particular salary. That I'm not as comfortable responding. I will have to get back to you to make sure that I'm correct in that regard.
All right. I'd appreciate you following up because it looks like. Oh, I see. Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. All right. I think I'm following now. Thank you. We will follow up with you on that just to make sure we understand the new position and that we understand what that is. There appears to be a $4,000 cut in the supply budget, and I understand that you just use whatever central supplies are available from the Office of Community Affairs. Is that still correct?
Yeah, I've never had a problem obtaining the supplies that I've needed. But that is correct.
Okay. So the supply budget of $3,000 that's included in the FY23 budget, that should be sufficient.
Yes.
You mentioned that one of your key goals is to work with DHCD to work with faith institutions to provide affordable housing. I don't think any faith-based institutions have applied for HPTF funds in the priority window of the 2021 consolidated RFP. The second RFP is going to close soon, or maybe close earlier this year. But do you know if any faith-based institutions applied for the second round of the second RFP to convert their property to affordable housing?
I would say that because in that initial window, I still would like to highlight that our convenings with various agencies involved in affordable housing has brought many faith institutions to the table to consider. I do believe that second window closed on February 15th, and the DHCD will be in a better position to respond as to whether or not there were faith-based institutions who applied during that window.
Okay. I mean, it does seem though that there are some challenges. So if you're making a particular effort to get them to apply, if any applied, it's few, but haven't seen that yet. And so, I know this has been a focus of your office, but it seems like we may not have been successful there. What are the challenges? Why are faith-based institutions not participating in this program?
I can't speak to all. You would imagine that a place of worship, the primary focus for the last 100 or 50 plus years has been the gathering and then also administering to the needs of the most vulnerable in the community. The idea of repurposing the land is not something that one reaches overnight. And then in some cases, particularly those who do not have a diocese to overlook, it takes some time for congregationally based churches to work internally to convince their houses of worship to move. We do recognize and therefore have committed dollars towards the pre-development stage that there are places of worship we just need a little bit more guidance. So we're grateful for partnerships in our community like Enterprise. Enterprise most recently on our call on Friday said that there are other places around the country who are drawing inspiration from the work that we are doing. So we continue to work with organizations, not only Enterprise, City First, to help the faith community to get to the point where they're able and ready to move dirt. But I'm confident, particularly since many places of worship now, due to the pandemic, due in terms of this an opportunity, we'll have to rethink what their goals and how they better meet the needs of the community going forward.
Okay. Yeah, I hope we can make progress there. I know the mayor talked about this during her briefing to the council on Friday. And I was reading that I heard her saying we were making progress there, and a good bit of your testimony was devoted to this as well. But I'm not seeing our faith-based institutions utilizing it yet. So I just hope that I understand that it takes time, but I hope we're sort of trying to, as we go, understand what the hurdles may be so that we can really get our faith-based institutions moving in this program.
I would just add one thing, and I think all of us have to listen to the faith-based groups in terms of what they need, and so that those dollars that we have put in place to help with those pre-production costs, we think and hope will also help those. But as we learn more, I think as the mayor has promised, we will continue to try to do more.
Do you know if any religious institutions have successfully converted their properties to affordable housing using HPTF funds?
A good question. I believe what Pastor Joe Daniels was able to do with Emory was a result of those funds, but I can get you a list of those who have been able to access it. I do know that there are individuals who we utilize to go to encourage others in terms of how they've been able to use government funding. But I believe the best model would be Pastor Joe Daniels and Emory.
Okay. And are you, is your office still, yeah, I appreciate the testimony about your efforts to get residents vaccinated. Do you expect those efforts to continue into FY23?
Thank you for your question. Yes, in fact, our partner, I'm grateful for Mayor's leadership, and I'm grateful for DC Health for including my office in their efforts. As you know, the faith in the vaccine, or as Reverend Curry tries to get us to say, faith and the vaccine. We will stand up more of these clinics. I know that my own church, Shiloh, will be doing a faith in the vaccine clinic once again on Good Friday. There are others who are reaching out to. We must continue to move the needle. I know that DC Health adopted one of the slogans that I offered up, and that is the family that vaccinates together stays together. We also are working with a project with the Howard University School of Divinity, where they're going to help us to train clergy to be credible messengers. When the pandemic first hit, we were trying to convince clergy to act as credible messengers because we know that people listen to their faith leaders. But we needed to also give them the information and the tools they need. And so we'll be working with Howard University School of Divinity to have an interfaith certificate program that will take clergy through a series of courses that will make them real and bona fide credible messengers. All that to say, yes, we continue to work with the faith community in our outreach and realizing that the faith community not only works with their membership, that would be short-sighted, but they work with their neighboring communities, and that's where we need them at work.
Okay. Your testimony mentioned the Office of Community Affairs' role in funding grants. Does ORA specifically have any role in that effort?
We don't have grant-making authority in the Office of Religious Affairs. And what we do is, as part of our overall mission, is when we encounter faith-based groups, we tell them about the grants that are available to them. So we point them to African American affairs, we point them to Latino affairs, and we point them to others. And also we work to make sure that they do have and are able to access as a faith-based institution, but we don't have grant-making authority in our office.
Okay. And as you know, the Mayor's Order 2011-110 for the Interfaith Council has sunset. When can we expect the mayor to extend the Interfaith Council's mandate?
It will be extended, and I know that's part of the reason. We will have our meeting on the 31st of March, and not as reported in the follow-up question on the 15th. And I expect by that time to have the mayor's order for the Mayor's Interfaith Council. We definitely recognize the role and the need of the faith community. And even though this is messages for faith leaders, even as we have a council comprised of 30, we're trying to get faith leaders on other boards and commissions as well. I'm of the mindset that the clergy we have, by virtue of the educational opportunities, are learned clergy. They are public theologians, and we need their moral voice in other areas of our city. So yes, we will have a new issuing of that, but we also encourage members of the faith community to apply for positions on other boards and commissions as well.
Director Bowen, those are all the questions I have. I want to thank you again for being with us, for the work that you're doing, and we look forward to working with you throughout the budget process.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. So we will now welcome Executive Director Jennifer Porter, Director of the Office of Women's Policy and Initiatives.
Good afternoon, council member.
Good afternoon, Director. How are you doing today?
I can't complain. Happy Women's History Month.
Well, that's right. Same to you. As I guess we got another week or so still, and I know this is a busy time of year for you. So I appreciate everything that you're juggling.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, as you know, it is the practice of this committee to put our government witnesses under oath. So I would ask that you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to provide to the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Wonderful. You can begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman White, members of the committee, and residents of the District of Columbia. Happy Women's History Month to each of you. My name is Jennifer L. Porter, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office on Women's Policy and Initiatives, more affectionately known as MOPI. Since its inception, the Mayor's Office on Women's Policy and Initiatives has endeavored to enhance the quality of life for all women and their families in the District of Columbia. We do this through economic empowerment programs, civic engagement, and through health and wellness initiatives. Our aim, as always, is to amplify government services to women and to be a liaison between the public and private sectors to create innovative and sustainable programs to support women thriving in our city. In health and wellness, we know that heart disease is among the #1 killers for women, and we know that mental and physical wellness also remain top priorities of need for women. In 2019, we were proud to launch in partnership with the DC Department of Parks and Recs, our Well Women Wednesdays series. And our monthly fitness series has a special focus on mindfulness, self-care, and will again feature women instructors who share ways that district women can incorporate personal fitness into their everyday lives. Maternal and infant health has also always been a priority for our office and has been particularly for the Bowser administration an investment to continue to move the needle on women's health. MOPI is excited to be the new host for this year's 5th annual Maternal and Infant Health Summit, and we continue to amplify resources for district women, families, moms, and their children to not only support them, but to identify policies and initiatives to remove barriers to support their growth and development. We will also continue our special web series, Maternal Mondays, which will feature live series to create community and to connect moms on themes like safety, self-care, and financial literacy, and more. For economic empowerment, in February of 2021, we launched, in partnership with the DC Department of Insurance and Securities Banking, our Financially Fit DC Women series. We're so proud of the ability of our government to share financial resources for financial independence to help women thrive and to continue in their journey for economic mobility. This series was specifically curated to support women by addressing socioeconomic influences to their financial status, including domestic violence, education, and investing. MOPI is excited as well this year as we relaunched our Conversations with Women Who Lead series. And this year we kicked off a very special International Women's Day segment featuring women in infrastructure. And Councilmember, I know this is important to you, but as we continue the implementation of the infrastructure bill, we want people to know that DC is a place where women are leading in infrastructure. And we also want district women to know about opportunities for them to learn about careers in infrastructure and ways that they can participate. We hosted over 60 women and even more through our broadcast on DC TV for this conversation. And we also were excited this year to host our Work Smart salary negotiation training. Councilmember, as you know, we are endeavoring to close the gender pay gap, and we have to do that strategically for women. Building confidence, knowing strategies for negotiation are critical, and we're proud that the mayor has made an investment for us to continue to train district women for free on how to get what they deserve. We're excited to have relaunched this series, and a few weeks ago, we hosted over 160 women who came to learn how to leverage their backgrounds to earn their worth. This is a special partnership with the American Association of University Women, and we are proud this year to continue and expand that partnership to include the DC Department of Employment Services so that we can enhance the trainings by connecting women to the varied employment services and employment support investments, that the district has invested in. For civic engagement, As a policy office, MOPI continues to engage and activate women to participate in our government process. And I want to take a point of personal privilege to thank all of our women witnesses today. We need you to advise us and to be actively a part of this process. From learning to engage in our budget cycles, such as our witnesses today, to women serving on boards and commissions, to engaging our youth to learn about ways that they can improve our community. We are excited that women are leading in public service, and we want to make sure that women stay excited and continue to be committed to be engaged in their civic lives. The Commission for Women is actively planning our 2022 Women's Be the Movement Policy Bootcamp. And we continue to partner with Excel Academy, our all-girls public school, to engage girls in exciting presentations to encourage their civic engagement. So in closing, these strategic programs and partnerships allow us to continue precision programming that helps women thrive in the district. We're grateful for your leadership and your support, and we continue to invite you to join us in amplifying government to women across our city. Thanks for the opportunity to testify today, and I look forward to answering any questions from you and the committee.
Thank you, Director. So let's jump right in. I feel like we're usually talking to each other in the evening hours, so it's like
Yes.
we're doing this during the day.
I know, this is a bit different. Mm-hmm.
The mayor's proposed budget would add one full-time employee and increase the office's budget by $180,000. Your testimony didn't mention this new employee. What do you envision their role will be in your office?
Sure. So, Councilmember, you know, I have a public health background, and I was really honored when the mayor made the decision late fall to bring the Maternal and Infant Health Summit, as well as the Maternal and Infant Health Initiatives under the Mayor's Office on Women's Policy and Initiatives. While we know that maternal health can be a clinical physiological thing, we know that most of the factors that determine health outcomes are not clinical in nature. They're social in nature, they're economic in nature. And so the Mayor's Office on Women does just that with our 3 pillars of health and wellness, economic empowerment, and civic engagement. So we're proud to now propose to have an additional FTE that can not only focus on the clinical outcomes of maternal health in partnership with our great partners at DC Health, but also to elevate, as we do every day, policy priorities and initiatives that can support moms learning about their equal pay, learning about childcare opportunities, and other things that help to determine women's health and how they and their families can thrive in the city. So I'm excited about this new partnership, and that FTE will be in charge of our health portfolio for maternal health, as well as our entire health portfolio. So our Well Women Wednesdays initiatives, our breast cancer and domestic violence initiatives, and they'll be leading those with precision.
Okay. Aside from that newly funded position, do you have any vacancies currently?
No, so we don't have any vacancies. I'm really excited. I think the last time we talked, we were bringing on a new associate director. And so we are fully staffed and we are ready to go. It's Women's History Month. We have over 26 programs scheduled. So I know you've seen us running around, but we are booked and busy, but the women in DC deserve it. And so we're excited to continue not only this month, but throughout the year.
Okay. The proposed budget will cut the funding available for your supplies from $10,000 to $3,000. Do you expect this will be sufficient as we all, start to spend more time in the office this year?
So, and that line is kind of a trick question because as you may be aware, we have a global budget, and so instead of ordering supplies for 4 folks, the entire office of the mayor makes the investments in our supplies, and I don't foresee that as an issue.
Okay. The commission has the authority to apply for and receive grants to fund its programs and activities. Has the commission or the office applied for any grants in FY 21 or 22?
So grants, no. And so we have the opportunity to apply, and we work in partnership with the Serve DC Office of Partnerships and Grants. And we're actually excited because now, as the new host for the Maternal and Infant Health Summit, we're going to be engaging through Serve DC, who regulates that entire process. Some of our lead sponsors for the event to make sure that not only the convening is supported by our philanthropic community, but that we're able to have some great investments for our families. So we do foresee working with the office to procure some grants for the summit.
Okay. And you testified about Well Women Wednesdays, that's a fitness series?
So yes, and during the what you may be referencing to during COVID, when our recreation centers were closed down, we shifted the series to focus on self-care and wellness.
Yeah.
Especially for our moms who were just endeavoring through. But we're excited because women are returning to the office. And I know we keep saying returning to work, but women have been working through the entire time. We're returning to the office. And so we want to continue to incorporate not just the fitness components, but entire wellness. So we are focusing on mental health and self-care and keeping those themes that are so important as women return to the office and as we look at what the new normal is. So yes, part of it will include fitness, but we'll continue the themes of self-care.
Okay, and will it continue to be all virtual, or are you planning to move to in-person or hybrid?
So our plan is to do some hybrid activities. We know, and we were so proud on Saturday to host over 3,000 district residents for our annual Herstory 5K. We know that women are craving opportunities for connection, especially moms of children under 5. We're looking to get out and to get excited and to join. And so our Department of Parks and Rec stands ready for us to curate fitness programming in person. And we are excited to see what the rollout is doing. As you know, in the mayor's budget, she's proposed some expansion, not only for women, but for girls in sports. And so we're looking to get out. DC's open and women are leading. So we're excited to offer them both in a hybrid fashion.
Okay. And you mentioned that you're hosting Maternal and the Maternal and Infant Health Summit this year. Who hosted it previously?
So it was hosted by the Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services.
Okay. And the goal is to identify policies and initiatives to remove barriers to support the growth and development. Can you share those outcomes with the committee after the summit?
Happy to.
Excellent. And when will that be?
So stay tuned. We will next month we'll be sharing the locked in date, but we're working on making sure we have all of our partners, and again working with Serve DC to make sure that all of our philanthropic community is involved. So we'll get that to you as soon as possible.
Excellent. And your testimony mentioned that you're partnering with DOES this year to enhance your training offerings. Can you talk a bit more about the scope of the partnership with DOES?
Sure. So we know that just by our evaluation and seeing women need this wage negotiation training, the one that we hosted a few weeks ago, there were women who were like, I have an interview tomorrow and I have a couple of questions. And we know that this training has proven to be effective. What we want to make sure is that all of our programming is not just connecting women to a particular episodic training, but that we're connecting them to the investments that is a sustainable connection for long term. Women are changing jobs every day, and we know they need to be connected to resources. So our Department of Employment Services is uniquely outfitted to have resume support, helping residents to identify and look for jobs in preparation for interviews. And so we want to enhance the training and connect them to the resources that their tax dollars have already made an investment in. So we're excited, and we'll have the opportunity to look and to connect women beyond the training to employment resources to help them thrive.
Sure. And finally, with regard to the Women's Policy Boot Camp that you're hosting, did you have a theme or a topic for that event yet?
So we do, and our commissioners, they are they're so excited, and they're going to be coming up with a jazzy name. But the focus this year is really going to be around women returning to work. There are policies that really we know that the past 2 years changed everything. And before the pandemic, there were work policies that prohibited women from thriving. And we are just looking to honestly open up the conversation around how we can set some things that change in place and make those recommendations. So from wellness, from occupational wellness, looking at leave, to themes of self-care in the workplace, our commissioners are really excited about looking at policy initiatives to help women come back and work well.
I love it. Very, very good focus. Very good focus. Director, again, want to thank you very, very much for the work that you and your team are doing. And we look forward to working with you through this budget cycle and throughout the fiscal year.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I always have a shameless plug, so I'm gonna take my moment. We are closing out Women's History Month with a bang. The Mayor's annual Washington Women of Excellence Awards will be on March 31st at 6 p.m. We'll be at the beautiful Wharf Dockmaster building. The cherry blossoms will be bloom. We'll be right on the water, and it's gonna be beautiful. So we want everybody to come out and join us at 6 o'clock as we honor some outstanding women who have just been leading in the district. And I look forward to seeing you there too, Councilmember.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Director.
All right.
We will now welcome Director Jackie Reyes Yanis with the Office of Advisory Neighborhood. No, I'm sorry, with the Office of Community Affairs. Director, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Councilmember.
Thank you. Well, welcome. As you know, it's the custom of this committee to put our government witnesses under oath. I would ask that you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to provide to the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. You can begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman White, members of the committee and staff. My name is Jackie Reyes Yanis, and I'm honored to serve as the Director of the Mayor's Office on Community Affairs under the visionary leadership of Mayor Muriel Bowser. For those familiar, MOCA is comprised of 14 constituent services office focused on engaging residents, businesses, stakeholders through our community outreach partnerships and strategies. Last week, Mayor Muriel Bowser proposed the FY23 Fair Shot budget, which reflects what are we hearing from DC residents, their concerns about public safety and affordability, and how can we better ensure all residents have access to safe and dignified housing. How can we make our roads safer and continue to rethink how can we use public space and commercial corridors. It makes a big investments in young people throughout schools and facilities, but also through significant investments in early learning and out-school time activities. The office in the MOCA cluster serves as a direct link between the diversity of new Washingtonians and other special emphasis populations, including but not limited to LGBTQAI+ Washingtonians, the nightlife industry, the deaf and the blind, the hard of hearing, immigrants, and women. MOCA offices work to directly engage constituents and fostering relationships means our MOCA offices are an entry point that allows us to become trusted messengers between government and the community. With the proposed FY23 fair share budget, Mayor Bowser is doubling down in her commitment to ensure each and every Washingtonian has the opportunity to build back better and ensure our officers can provide them with equitable access to district services. Chief of Staff John Falsicchio will testify separately about the overall vision for the Executive Office of the Mayor, where the MOCA offices resides, and several offices will have separate hearings. However, I want to highlight several programs that will continue to expand in FY23. As we continue the district comeback in economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic, the mayor has tasked our office with funding grants that allow community-based organizations to support our city's vibrant culture, supporting the implementation and expansion of strategies as DC continues its strides to the district of comebacks, and informing residents of the district programs to ensure access to their fair shot. Our offices will continue to partner with district government agencies in broadcast outreach, provide feedback, and to inform residents of key district-wide efforts to address our residents in most pressing concerns in public safety, health and human services for the most vulnerable, our children educational aspirations, transportation and environment development, and housing affordability concerns. The mayor has an ambitious goals for FY23 budget and provides MOCA with the necessary means to ensure our residents emerge from the pandemic stronger and more ready to thrive. Our MOCA office is ready to deliver on these goals by engaging in fostering relationships and serving as a trusted messengers to our residents in all 8 wards. In closing, I would like to thank Mayor Bowser for the leadership, for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. It is an honor to serve my neighbors in our beautiful city in such a direct way. I also want to thank you. I also want to thank my MOCA colleagues and give a special shout out to my MOCA core team, who work very tirelessly to make sure the community has support for the resources needed to execute their duties. Thank you, Councilman Robert White, for this opportunity to testify, and I welcome any questions for the committee.
Thank you very much, Director. So your budget proposes a $100,000 increase next fiscal year in the subsidies and transfers line of your budget, and there isn't much detail on that in the budget book. The budget book just says it's for personnel services. What is that money for?
So I will have to get back to you, as we know the budget is still assembling. So as soon as we get more details, I will make sure that we get back to you on that.
Okay. This part of the budget has been submitted. I think all the parts of the budget at this point have been submitted as of Friday. So yeah, if you could report to us, what this.
Yeah, we'll go back line item by line item.
And your supplies budget is being cut from $5,000 to $1,000. I understand that there's sort of a pool of supplies, funding. What we're seeing in the offices under the jurisdiction of this committee is that all of the supplies budgets are being cut pretty substantially at a time where I think we expect people to be spending more time in the office. Do you think that your office and the cluster that you manage will have enough money in the supplies budget?
Our offices we have not been teleworked that much, so we're more than sufficient to comply. We have been here at the office.
Okay, all right. And it looks like your budget for compensation is going down by about $50,000. Why is that?
$50,000. I will. Can you please repeat that again, Councilmember? On what line item you're talking about?
In the personal services budget, it looks like the budget is going down by about $50,000.
Yeah, so I will get back to you on that one. For the $50,000, it doesn't, I don't see it on my notes here, but I will get back to you on that.
From your Schedule A, it looks like one of your positions, the special assistant position, is vacant. Is that right?
Yes, we are currently interviewing, and that would be for the grant position.
Okay. What I think that wasn't that one vacant during the performance oversight? I thought you were hiring during the performance oversight for that one.
Yes, we're still looking for the right person, council member.
Okay. Last year in the budget, Councilmember Allen transferred $28,000 to your budget through our committee to fund the outstanding balance of the Capitol Hill Cluster School for the costs associated with the Capitol Hill Classic. Did you facilitate having that debt paid?
Yes, it has been taken care of, council member.
Oh. And was that money fully spent?
It was fully spent. I think that was over the bill that we have to pay back.
Okay.
For that specific in Ward 6, yes.
In last year's budget report, we suggested that OCA conduct a strategic review of functions that would be better done centrally than in each of your constituent offices. Have you conducted a review like that?
Can you repeat that again, Councilmember?
In last year's budget report, we suggest that we put in a recommendation that OCA conduct a strategic review of functions that would be better done centrally rather than, by each of the individual constituent offices. So I'm wondering if you all have done that.
Yeah, I will get back to you on that. We have more centralized things that we're doing as mock-up, but I'll get back to you on that.
One of the centralized things that has concerned me, I've mentioned this during the performance oversight hearing, is the websites under the Office of Community Affairs. Have you all been able to make any progress on that?
Yes. So after that hearing, we have been working with Acto and making sure that we are updating the website and they're more user friendly. And we have, and I know if you go back, you will see a slightly changed, but it will take a bit for us to revamp the whole website. But we are working on it.
Okay, but you are working on it. Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah.
And it looks like the structure of the Office of Community Affairs stayed fairly the same this year with your 14 constituent offices and various different sizes and responsibilities. Have you conducted any review of their budgets to make sure the offices are sort of right sized to meet the unique needs of the constituencies they represent?
Yes, so we have worked very diligently, and if you see most of our offices, they have not stayed the same. They have been increased, like LGBTQ, the Mayor's Office on Returning Citizens, they have been increased also. So we have worked with our budget team on making sure that, on the constituency, we are making the right efforts to keep it the same. And in other ones, there have been an increase.
Okay. But there's still, it seems from the outside, I don't know the population sizes, maybe you do, but the difference between the size of the Office of Latino Affairs and the Office of African Affairs, those are two very differently sized offices. Are they sort of commensurate with the size of the population, or how do you determine?
Is the population, council member, and the Office on Latino Affairs, the population is now 13% of the population, other than the African Americans, it is, I think it's 2 or 3%, the difference. So it's the size is a big difference. Okay. And then the LGBTQ Affairs Office, that DC is like one of the gay cities in the nation, we are like a good percent, and you'll see the increase of the office. And Director Bowles has been striving to make sure that he has a robust budget for the FY23.
Your testimony mentioned your focus on grants to community-based organizations this year. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yes, so at the Office on Community Affairs, we have but our offices, they issue grants. The Mayor's Office, the Serve DC, OAPIA, Mayor's Office on Asian Pacific Islanders, African Affairs, African American Affairs. We started doing 2 years ago, and the Office on Latino Affairs. So we work very diligently on how, to address issues accordingly, but we coordinate. There is a community base that the community reviewers, and then they come to the office, they go to the director, and then we have a panel that we assist on making sure that everybody have access to grants.
How much in grants has OCA budgeted for FY23?
It's by offices, council member. So we don't have the Office of Community Affairs don't house. We help the office that are under our purview to coordinate those. It's not housed in the Mayor's Office on Community Affairs.
Okay, so the grant funding is not from the Office of Community Affairs, or
exactly.
Okay.
There is a line item under their budgets.
Under the other agency budget.
Exactly.
I see. Okay. Okay, Director, well, I want to thank you for being with us today, for the work that you and your team are doing, and we will be working with you throughout this budget process, and look forward to it.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you. Why don't we do this? We have one more agency, which is the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions. We're going to take a 7-minute recess, and then we will resume with the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions. So the time is now 1:47. We will resume in about 7 minutes, so about 1:55. We are resumed. And I want to welcome representatives of the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commission. I understand that Gail Fast will be representing the office for testimony today, but we'll be joined by other members of the OANC team for questions. So Ms. Fast, here we are. Welcome. How are you doing today? Uh-oh, we have you on mute. There you are.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Just
No.
blurring my background. My dog is, I don't want her to photobomb me while I'm testifying.
That's the age we live in. It's all
I
right.
know, right? All right. Anyway, well, good afternoon, Chairman White.
Well, I'm sorry. Before you begin,
we have
Ms.
to-
Fast, I'd
Yes.
say, and actually, since other members of the team may be answering questions, I want to make sure we'll wait till everybody's on. So I see Ms. Williams, Ms. Dickerson, is that everyone who may be answering questions?
I believe so. Leonard Barnum may be on. He may be on, but I think the three of us will answer questions.
Okay. Mr. Barnes, if you're listening, accept the promotion. We're trying to promote you to a panelist. So you'll just have to click OK or what have you. All right. If he joins and answers the questions, we'll swear him in. But I'll ask, first of all, welcome all three of you, and I ask that you each raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to provide to the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Ms. Fash, you can begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman White and members of the Government Operations and Facilities Committee. My name is Gail Fast, and I am a program analyst at the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions, and I'm here with my colleagues, Kathy Williams, Dawn Dickerson, and Leonard Barnum. Today, I am here to discuss our vision for the fiscal year 2023 budget for the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions. Advisory Neighborhood Commissions are advisory boards composed of residents elected from the district's neighborhoods. The commissions are independent bodies that advise district government on policy issues affecting their particular neighborhoods. Currently, there are 40 ANCs divided into 296 sub-areas called single-member districts, or SMDs, with about 2,000 residents each. These levels are the results of the 2012 redistricting. The 2020 census showed a 14.6 increase in population growth district-wide. This increase required redrawing ward boundaries to ensure balanced ward populations and representation in the legislature. And now ward-specific task forces are meeting to make recommendations on redrawing ANC and single-member district boundaries to meet similar balancing and fair representation goals. We project an additional 3 to 5 ANCs and 39 single-member district commissioners. ANCs are funded under category 50 of our budget, subsidies and transfers, which has been decreased in the fiscal year 23 budget by 6.8%. In accordance with the Home Rule Charter, funding to ANCs is distributed on a per capita basis. Based on the last census, ANCs received $1.33 per neighborhood resident. The proposed fiscal year 23 funding amount, which is the same amount funded in year 21 and fiscal year 22, does not reflect the increase of over 87,000 new residents. The OANC is requesting in fiscal year 23 subsidies and transfers a funding amount of $915,710. The Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions, OANC, is responsible for providing technical, administrative, and analytical support to ANCs and ANC commissioners. Training is an important component of retaining good commissioners. The Board of Ethics and Government Accountability provided ANC training on FOIA, and the Office of the Attorney General's Land Use Division provided Zoning 101 training. Both trainings are now featured on the OANC's YouTube channel, which is linked to the OANC website and can be viewed by commissioners on demand. Future trainings include Howard University's Managing Stress and Self-Care Tips and the Office of Campaign Finance's Campaign Finance Playbook. The OANC anticipates that onboarding at a minimum 39 new commissioners will require extensive training and has already developed a 6-part new commissioner training that will be offered in January 2023. ANC commissioners have expressed the need for an intranet site where commissioners can access commissioner-only information, such as the ANC handbook, the liaison list, bylaws and resolution templates, and other items. The OANC has met with OCTO to discuss adding an intranet feature to our existing website. However, this add-on is not yet available on dc.gov websites. To handle printing service requests from ANCs, OANC is working with the council CTO to identify the best printer copier / to handle these requests. The OANC is working through the process of procuring the 2 different software solutions through the Office of Contracts and Procurement. A communication software that will enable ANC commissioners to connect with more of their constituents through email, SMS, text messaging, RSS feeds, and social media, and an online community engagement platform to assist ANCs in keeping residents informed about local events and issues, collecting resident feedback through surveys and polls, and collaborate with other ANCs, sharing resident input and data. Quarterly financial reporting, or QFRs, from 2017 to 2021 have been uploaded on the OANC website for continued transparency. In response to commissioner requests to modernize the QFR system, the OANC is procuring software that will update and install a new system on the OANC server, redesign and restructure the web interface, restructure ANC input and calculation functions to meet current requirements that meet privacy and security best practices, and deliver a first-rate mobile experience. The procurement process is arduous, and we are learning as we go. We have just finished preparing the sole source letter for the updated QFR software and finalizing the statement of work for the communication software. We continue to meet with OCP to help us move through the process. With your approval from your committee, the OANC has finalized policies and procedures for the technical and expert assistance funds and is working with OCTO to get the application online. 2 ANCs have already tapped into the expert fund for accounting and policy procedures. Current legislation has extended the ability for ANCs to meet virtually until November 2022. The OANC surveyed 35 ANCs on a variety of questions about transitioning to a hybrid meeting model. The survey said that 26 out of the 35 ANCs would like to move to a hybrid meeting solution. The OANC then reached out to the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment and is currently working with a vendor to develop hybrid kits that will contain all the physical equipment needed to hold a hybrid meeting. The vendor will also provide training to ensure that ANCs are comfortable holding this type of meeting. A subsequent questionnaire asked if the legislation was made permanent, would your ANC remain virtual? Of the 23 that responded, 9 indicated they would still transition to a hybrid meeting format. So to meet the objectives, the DXO funding for fiscal year 23 will require, and I'll just go through those categories if that's okay, Chairman White. that help? Okay, so the first is for an additional FTE. We have titled that individual the Administrative and Support Assistant. I believe you heard about that individual from Commissioner Elkins earlier on in this hearing. As we see the position, that individual would answer phones, they would perform various office assignments, they would assist the current staff with the onboarding of the 39 new commissioners, and then assist with the program with the QFRs working sort of alongside Dawn Dickerson. We're also asking for an FTE, which we have labeled as a legal analyst. And as you heard earlier on, we feel that we need someone in our office to assist and handle with our FOIA requests. This individual could provide legal opinions on A&C matters. They could connect commissioners with district agencies and their MOCRs and provide expert assistance when needed. And these two positions are in addition to the technical support specialist who is currently funded in fiscal year 23, however, has not been hired at this point. For non-personal services, we've added a few categories. We are supplementing any funding allocated for communication access services, including the sign language interpretation, computer-aided real-time transcription, and other services and supports for A&Cs, provided that that current funding allocated for this purpose proves insufficient. So it's kind of a safety net in case that doesn't happen. And then as Commissioner Elkins indicated, as I have attended Octos meetings, he was aware that we are really interested in developing a new OANC website. The one on the dc.gov has very, very limited in what its ability. And in listening to ANC commissioners that want that intranet feature, it would also be an opportunity for us to house the documents on demand training. Right now, we can't do that on our website. We have to link to our YouTube channel. And things could just be a lot easier if we had a more robust website, which I think would solve a lot of issues. In our other services and charges, we obviously want to continue the technical assistance and expert funding for the next fiscal year. As I said, we're procuring, we are trying to get through this procurement process for those two softwares. We thought that all our investigative work would be completed and we would have identified who the vendors were and we could go ahead and procure them. And then OCP said, wait a minute, that's not how that process works. So we are in the midst of working on that. And then obviously we'll need continued funding for the new QFR software. The addition of those two FTEs and alongside the already funded technical assistance fund, we wanted to just make everyone aware that our current offices are very small and we will not have enough office space to hold 3 additional FTEs should we be so lucky to receive them. We would like to stay in the Wilson building, but we would obviously, if we had to stay in our existing offices, we need a new reconfiguration and probably some construction to be able to find a place for those 3 folks to sit. For our subsidies and transfers, this is where we are asking for the additional funding for these additional ANCs that are going to come on board and single member district commissioners. And then lastly, in our equipment and equipment rental, we put in a cost for the hybrid meetings. This is for those 10 hybrid kits. I'll be more than glad to take your questions about them and what's included in them. But I just want the committee to be aware that these kits are turnkey for ANCs that do not have any facility structure that provides any equipment. So we have one ANC right now who is holding a hybrid meeting. However, they are in a space that has its own projector, its own screen, its own stable internet, And, that's not the norm. That's sort of the exception. There are going to be ANCs that are going to go into places that want to do hybrid that don't have any of those services. So those kits, we're asking for another $420,000. And then for the copier that we have, many ANCs have asked for to come to be able to do their printing, $20,000 for a new printer copier. That is all I have, and I look forward to taking your questions. And if I can't answer them, I'm sure my colleagues will jump in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's walk through some of the requests and recommendations. On the hybrid kits, 10 of them. Why 10?
Well, we went off the we sent out the survey. We got the 35 responses came back. Well, 26 of them said yes, we would love to do hybrid. However, when we went back out again and said if the legislation was permanent and you could remain virtual, would you want to still transition to hybrid? We only got 23 responses, but of those 23, only 9 of those said, yes, we still definitely want to go to hybrid. So I think there is really a disconnect. I think the hybrid sounds great if the legislation doesn't end up being permanent and that virtual option is no longer in the mix, then I think we would obviously need some additional kits. If not, I think that you're going to find that many of the ANCs that don't have facilities that can house them, meaning like 2A, who is in a public library that has the projection and the screen and all of, the audience space for that, they're not going to transition to it. So we said, let's start with 10 kits. Also, to be perfectly honest, there's a supply chain issue that will probably come into play. And so according to the vendor we've been talking about, he suggested that we start with a smaller number. And then as the supply chain issue, gets more robust, we could add more kits.
Okay.
But we're more than glad to fund more of them if you think there are more ANCs that would be interested.
Well, I mean, my guess is that most commissions are going to be hybrid going forward. What I'm trying to work through is the kits. So they're roughly $42,000 each. So, if we had one for each commission, we're talking about $1.7 million.
So there was some discussion about the kits. The kits are in a travel case on wheels. Okay. So they're portable. And that's how we designed them. So they could be portable. There was some discussion, and I actually talked with Commissioner Elkins about the possibility that some ANCs could share because they don't all meet on the same night.
Right.
And so if you had a neighboring commission that needed it, we could share the case.
Okay.
But these have, the powered speakers, the speaker stands, the tripods, the microphones, the projector screen, all in this kit. So it's comprehensive.
Would it not cost less? And these questions aren't to be critical. Like there's a problem and you all are identifying an answer. And so I always kick the tires, and I appreciate you all looking to find an answer. So I don't want you to take these questions as a sign that I disagree. But could it possibly be sort of more cost efficient to hire someone or someone with a few employees that has kits that sort of attends these meetings? Would that possibly be a more cost-effective way to do this? So since the kits seem to cost roughly $42,000 each, and folks might need assistance with the setup and takedown. Do you think we might be able to hire a team to do this?
We can certainly look into that. We didn't investigate that. We investigated the idea of ANCs having this available only because it's not just your regular business meeting when you may want to do hybrid. So there are committee meetings that may want to be hybrid as well.
Yeah.
And so, it would be then having to reach out to this quote unquote company to have them come out, and we didn't investigate that. We thought it would be easier if they had the kits themselves. I know when I was a commissioner, our ANC had our own microphone set up for our, and it was just great. We just came in, we set it up, the microphones were there, everyone could hear us. And so it just made it a lot easier if we wanted to have, you could take the microphones if you wanted to have a single member district meeting, et cetera.
Yeah, only because of the cost of it, and that's what the
Sure.
budget process is for, to work through these. So we'll work through it with you, and
We can investigate that for sure.
Because hybrid meetings are sort of the future for ANCs, and we've got to start figuring it out. On the administrative and support assistant FTE, what salary are you looking at for this person?
I believe we put in our, I think we earmarked it 50,000.
Yeah. So what I was trying to figure out is, because if the salary is 50,000, the earmark would have to be decently more than that. It would be roughly 30% for fringe benefits, and so I worry that the salary might be a bit low to be able to find and retain somebody. So that's something we'll have to work through if we're able to get that person on board. So I think the number will end up being decently larger than 50,000, but we'll work through that with you.
Okay.
Okay. And what about the legal analyst position? What salary are you looking at for that?
I believe we were looking at somewhere around 75. We threw around whether we wanted that person to be an attorney, and we felt that they didn't necessarily need to be, but that they needed to obviously have a legal background of some sort, and certainly understand FOIA. And just so that you're aware, currently right now, Kathy Williams handles our FOIA requests. I think we are immersed right now in 4 of them, Kathy, 3 or 4, which takes up an inordinate amount of time.
I've done FOIA before, Ms.
Right.
Williams. I feel for you.
Right. So that's, again, when you're looking at restructuring the office and what folks need to do and onboarding 39 new commissioners, Kathy Williams has been with the OANC, probably knows everything like the back of her hand. What a valuable resource, she would be for helping us to do onboarding. But if you're spending all your time researching and parting reports for FOIA, it doesn't leave you a whole lot of other time left over. So,
and you can't put FOIA on the back burner either, because there are statutory timelines, and you'll get sued. And
Exactly. And it has to be adhered to. So we felt that if we could hire a legal analyst, that would be a really good opportunity for us to, but it also would be able to answer some of the requests that I think ANC commissioners have requested of us as an office. And, I served as an ANC commissioner, so I understand their struggles in getting district agencies to respond. It's very, very difficult. You understand how hard it is as a council to get, district agencies to respond. We are a very small cog in a very big wheel, that maybe having the opportunity to have someone who has some legal background could be a better intermediary between commissioners and agencies, certainly with at least agency liaisons that we identify, to get some of the responses to happen maybe at a quicker pace.
Yeah. One of the things that, talking about sort of, envisioning the future of the OANC, I do hear from commissioners sometimes some frustration around needing sort of legal advice and support, which particularly when it has to do with an agency, they cannot get that from the Office of the Attorney General. Do you have thoughts on whether a legal position would need to, be able to respond to commissioners who have legal questions that the Office of the Attorney General can't answer?
Well, I'll defer to Kathy with that. I think we do reach out to the OAG quite a bit. Josh Turner responds, obviously as quickly as he can and provides us with opinions on a lot of our legal issues. And actually the OAG has a website where you can go on and see the ANC opinions. But again, it's not connected to our website. It would be nice if those could be uploaded to it. But I'll let Kathy weigh in if legal advice would be a better resource, only because right now she handles that bridge between the commissioners and the OAG.
Good afternoon again. I agree wholeheartedly with Gail. Between Josh Turner and Brian Flowers, the OAG has been more than receptive to our requests. In fact, Josh Turner has addressed our commissioners during certain training. He has reached out to commissioners. Commissioners, in fact, are dialing up to him directly to get answers to questions, and he is responding. Sometimes he'll respond with a quick answer, and then we'll go back later and present an opinion. Other times he will give us a long opinion, something that can be used by Interim Director Grant so that she can issue to all commissioners. This is what's trending right now. People have asked about this. This is something you need to be mindful of. A lot of our commissioners aren't used to that. And some commissions, unfortunately, are believing that they are being targeted when that's not it at all. When in fact, we're trying to get as much information out there so that we're not always reinventing the wheel. Lots of the opinions that we have, as Gail pointed out, are online with the OAG. Josh Turner is very, very good about going back into the history of OAG opinions. As you know, when you used to call the OANC office, and is able to go back and bring them up to speed in terms of how it started, why it's now, and why later opinions by other other attorney generals, this is why, this is the way it is. So in that respect, I have found, and not all that in terms of the law, I've been around working with ANCs for a long time, but I find the OAG is very willing and very apt about answering our questions. And when they aren't available, when it seems like there's a puzzle, they have called us, and we've worked it out. We worked it out in accordance with the statute. So in that, what I tend to do is when I do answer legal opinions, and I do take a while because I think it out, but when I do answer them, I go to Josh for help, or I look at what the OAG has done and combine it with something our office has done. And when we're wrong, I said, we're wrong on this one, let's change this up. But that's about what we do. I'm very pleased with what the OAG has done for us. Very.
That's helpful. That's helpful. So let me switch gears a little bit. Ms. Fast, can you provide any status update on ANC 7F07 and the representation of the residents in the DC jail? Are there any gaps there still?
I don't believe there are. I think that right now the current commissioner who is representing 7F07 has transitioned out of the jail. However, has remained in contact with those and is representing not only them, but the rest of the community that 7F07 represents.
Okay. And in the current fiscal year, we enhanced the technical support and assistance fund with an additional $58,000 in addition to the $100,000 we put in the fund every year. The fund is also supposed to capture funding left unused by ANCs from the previous fiscal year. How much of the technical support and assistance fund has been spent so far this fiscal year?
Dawn, I'll let you answer. It hasn't been, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It hasn't been a lot. The idea was, we anticipated that about $100,000 of it was going to go to the two softwares, for the communication and for the engagement software. And we now have also the QFR new software that we were also hoping to spend. So we have, and I'll let Dawn interject as well or add any comments, but we are working with the Office of Procurement, Contracting and Procurement to get these things through. As I said in my testimony, I mean, we really thought we have identified the selected vendors that we would love to use. We thought, okay, let's sign off on it. We're ready to go. And then it's like, wait a minute, no, it's over $10,000 and you have to go through procurement. And I will be honest with you, our office has never had to do that. We don't have a procurement specialist.
Yeah.
But those softwares, and Dawn knows more about the QFR software, but the two softwares, the engagement and communication, are about $100,000. And the only reason why we're asking, obviously for additional funding is the communication these softwares were geared towards ANC commissions now, right? 296 commissioners, 40 ANCs. We were going to onboard in fiscal year 22 when we first, 20 of the 40 ANCs to get them on board. That was the vendor's recommendation. And then we were going to move to the 20 in the fiscal year 23, all 40, but now there will be approximately 45. So we'll need additional funds for that. And there'll be more than 296 commissioners. We're anticipating 39 additional commissioners. So that's about 334. So those prices are going to go, those costs are going to go up than the 100,000 for fiscal year 23. And then Dawn can talk to the QFR software.
Yeah. So with the QFR software, we're anticipating $25,000 to renovate that system and rebrand, that system and bring it online. And with the intention of having that done before the end of this fiscal year. And then with respect to the expert assistance fund, we were able to spend roughly around $5,000, maybe a little under $5,000 to provide accounting, payroll assistance for ANC 7E and 7F to clear up some outstanding matters that they had.
Okay. And what about the expert fund? What is spending in the expert assistance fund look like?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I misunderstood the terminology. The accounting piece is more of it out of the expert assistance fund.
Okay.
And then the QFR software and the communication software is coming out more of the technical assistance.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. And we budgeted, I think, $60,000 for communications access services provided through an MOU with the Office of Disability Rights this fiscal year. How much of that money has been spent so far this fiscal year?
Kathy or Dawn?
I can jump in with that.
Unfortunately, Dawn, thanks.
Unfortunately, none of that. The ANCs, for those ANCs that have identified a need for those services, they've been paying for it out of their allotments. But unfortunately, no. The OANC has not paid any of those expenses out of that particular pool of money. No.
Have you let those commissions know that there's an available pool of money for this?
Well, since we just were able to get the policies and procedures approved by the committee, we're now in the process of preparing a little marketing campaign and a rollout where we'll make them more aware of that. But previously, no, we had not.
Okay. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think sort of marketing, making sure that commissioners are aware of this and the communications access funding is particularly important. One, just as a practical matter so that they are aware and can utilize it, but two, so that we can start to get a sense of how much money we need in these budgets. Yeah, So I appreciate that you all are on the cusp of, it seems, sort of actively reaching out to commissions to market the available programs. And will you do it for both?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely. We're in the development stage of putting together an online application where ANCs can apply. And again, and then, a fancy little marketing blitz where we make them aware that this is available, it's coming, here's how to access it, et cetera.
Okay.
And for the Expert Assistance Fund, the good news is that that is exempt from the procurement, having to go through the procurement process. So it allows us to get those experts fairly quickly, but the technical support will still have to go if then, they have to go through the supplier list and CBEs, and it's definitely a much longer process to acquire those funds. It's not as easy as it will be for the expert.
Okay. For the expert fund, for the communications access and
QFR?
And the language translation. So as I'm trying to remember all these programs, they're all relatively new, and the names to overlap a little bit. I think there's such a critical need for these, and much of it, I think, the lack of utilization of these is sort of a communications issue. So, I think the office actively working to make sure commissioners are aware of these will be a huge step forward, because it will give us a sense of where the funding needs to be, whether it's higher or lower, and also for us to start to see how these processes play out in real time. But it seems like that's the direction you all are moving. So I'm happy about it, and I want to make sure commissioners can start to utilize these various programs. And looking at you mentioned, Ms. Fast, the technical support specialist position is still vacant. Are you all actively working to hire there?
Well, we were hoping that the permanent director would have been hired. And I think in our oversight hearing, I think we said that we were waiting for that individual to help us. But I just want to go back to the sign language and interpretation. ODR, ANCs can directly go through them and get those services and pay for those directly. So if I'm not mistaken, they do not have to use anything from the Technical Support Assistance Fund. ODR will pay for them directly. So they just have to and we have placed that in our announcements, the link for them to be able to go to that. But again, with a more robust website, these are things that we could put on our homepage. We cannot change our homepage. It is where it is. And so everything that we need to do has to go into one of the existing tabs that is already on there. And again, we can't change the tabs either. So I think, again, when you talk about communication, it really would be great for us. We really actually have no communication tool other than sending out emails to the commissioners, letting them know about these services, but there's no place for them to go to find them or to see them on a regular basis.
So we've worked on so many things over the past couple of years. So forgive me if there's an easy answer to this, but what do you need in order to revamp the website?
Okay, well, so I'll answer that. So we have talked with Octo, and I guess there are levels of the website.
That's right.
In the district. And so we are on that low rung of that website. So, the thought process from this office was, okay, maybe we need to hire an outside developer and somehow figure out how to create a page that looks like the DC government page, so it doesn't look any different than any of the other agencies, but is definitely a more robust and has pages behind it that we can manage and administer different information. But we can't get that through Octo. The intranet, which many commissioners ask for, which we think is a wonderful asset. We are not the only district agency that has asked for an intranet page, and apparently at this point, Octo is not providing that. We can't even get. We're just trying to get them to work on the look up your SMD action. Anytime a commissioner changes, the process to get that changed is long. And so it's
why can't Octo move you up a couple rungs? What would that require?
I don't know. We've never asked them, but we can ask them to move us up a rung. We asked them. I know I had a meeting with them to try to see if we could get our webpage to be a little bit more intuitive. Like if you've ever gone onto the zoning commission's page, you can go on there, you can check to see what hearings they have. You can go back and listen to hearings that have happened. All that kind of stuff is like right there on their page. They have the searchable ISIS, which you can go and look for your case files and all that kind of good searchable stuff. And we were told we weren't at that level to be able to get a page to look like that.
I would have asked them if you would, and I will ask them as well when they come before us for their oversight hearing, which I think is next week.
We'll do.
Okay. And looking forward, obviously we anticipate that the redistricting process is going to result in a significant number of new ANCs. Has the office considered I know you mentioned this from a budget standpoint, and so I guess you all have started thinking through the impact on staff resources. So I think that was clear in your testimony, so I'll skip that question, but we are anticipating a number of new ANCs, and let me take this time to thank the members for the ANC redistricting committee. They are working really hard right now.
Right. So that pertains to their allotments. So we have to ensure that when we add new ANCs and we add new single member district commissioners, because again, it's based off of residents per capita, not just the fact that we're adding 3 ANCs, but the fact that there are now 87,000 new residents who will be represented by single member district commissioners. And so even though an ANC may still be, such as mine, 6D, may only have, we have started out with 7 single member district commissioners, may have 9, at the end, which is 4,000 more residents. So we need to be able to accommodate that.
And the mayor's budget does not anticipate this? Okay.
It didn't. And it showed a decrease actually of 6.8%, which I don't really understand. Fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22, the budget was for the 40 ANCs and the whatever the number was at that time, I guess whatever we are now, 87,000 less. So we're 670 now. So you minus 87,000. It was 800,000, 799 something was the budget number, and it was fiscal year 21. And then going back to Director Simon's request in fiscal year 22, he asked for the same number, and so that was what was approved.
Did the mayor's office, in preparing their budget recommendations, did they engage with you?
They did not.
Okay. And so I just want to correct, I think I understood Mr. Mulhauser's testimony. I think I heard that he believed that the mayor's budget recommendation essentially included either our committee or your office's recommendation. I just want to clarify for the public that it doesn't. The mayor's office generally doesn't engage with independent agencies or the council in developing their budget recommendations. So just so the public knows that this is not OANC's recommendation or the committee's recommendation. And we received testimony regarding a request for an additional FTE for the OANC to expand training for ANCs. Can you tell me what you think of that recommendation?
Our office has always firmly believed that training should come from experts. And while I work with very talented individuals who can, provide trainings in a variety of different areas of expertise, when you're talking about campaign finance, it really should come from the Office of Campaign Finance. When we're talking about FOIA, it should come from BEGA. When you're trying to, talk to the experts, they want to give the trainings. They'd like to, present them. So I don't think it's my opinion, and I look to my colleagues to answer otherwise, that we identified an individual to actually, handle training. I think we all have put together the training for the new commissioners. It's a 6-part training. We're all taking pieces of it where we feel we have areas of expertise in training new commissioners on kind of what they need to expect. But when it comes to specific things, I think it's best for us to reach out to the experts and have them facilitate those trainings.
And we received testimony about the importance of assistance with the individual ANC websites, which for many of our ANCs is a problem, as well as the need to improve the OANC website, which we've already discussed. What do you think is the best path forward for updating the individual ANC websites?
Well, the hope is that the communication software and the engagement softwares have website pieces attached to them. So right now, of the 40 ANCs, I believe that there are 7 or so, that maybe less, that don't have their own websites. But through the communication software, they will be able to get a generic website. So, to double down and create a website when you're going to get a website didn't seem the most cost effective from us. And so we were really hoping to have rolled out the communication software already and seeing how that was working through the commissions. And then, of course, the engagement software will have a much more robust opportunity. Even ANCs will be able to communicate and collaborate with each other. There's a feature in that which I have heard, which we heard testimony on collaboration with each other. So they'll be able to do that as well. So I think the 2 softwares that we've chosen are really good. Will meet the needs of the commissioners, and sort of what they've been asking for. I think we listened, heard what they said, and then went out and looked for, products and vendors who could meet those needs.
Have you, what I don't know obviously about these websites is how user-friendly they are, or sort of how in line they are with other district government websites. Did you think they're going to be sort of easy enough for commissioners to use that, without, expertise, which, some have and some don't, they'll be able to sort of build their respective websites?
The communication software, we chose that because that is very simplistic. And in both of the softwares, there is 24/7 support for any ANCs who need it. I will say, I'm not sugarcoating, the engagement software is a much more robust and will require ANCs to have some technology and technological savvy individuals to make it as much as they want to make it. Others will just, probably maybe survey their constituents and that'll be it. But others will do, really robust engagement. And that is going to obviously be based on expertise of those commissioners. But again, that software itself also has 24/7 support. They can't do the work for the commissioners, but they certainly can help them set up and make themselves successful. And in the engagement software, reason why we were only onboarding 20 at a time is we wanted to, and this was the vendor's decision, was to see how it was being, what was working and what wasn't working, and then trying to then retailer it to make it more successful for onboarding additional ANCs.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that this technology does provide a path forward for improved ANC websites. And maybe this in combination with the technical support specialist, but whatever we sort of do here, we need to make sure commissions, have frankly modernized, navigable websites that even commissions without, folks who are very computer savvy can manage. So we'll keep our eye on that, and we'll work with you on that. Those are all the questions I have right now. Obviously, we have a good bit of work to do during the budget process, but I do want to thank you all for the work that you are doing, the work that you have done. I enjoy having hearings where we're talking about, things that have gotten done, sort of things that are in process. So I recognize the significant amount of work that you all are putting in, and I appreciate it. And I know commissioners do as well. So we'll keep pushing things forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member.
And I want to thank all of our government witnesses and the agencies that work behind the folks who testified today. And I want to thank our witnesses, our public witnesses, and all those who have tuned in and who we will be hearing from during this budget process. For anyone who would like to submit additional testimony related to any of these agencies, additional testimony is welcome and will be made part of the official record. Please submit testimony to the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities at facilities@dccouncil.us, facilities@dccouncil.us. The record for this hearing will close at the close of business on Monday, March 28th. With that, the business before this committee is concluded. The time is now 2:48 p.m. and this budget oversight hearing of the committee is adjourned. Have a great afternoon, everyone.